rocking the troops 24/7. This is Military Brotherhood Radio.
My name is Sarah. I'm a trainer at Freedom Service Dogs, and you're listening to the Beer30 Show with Danny and Joel.
All right, everybody, thank you. Once again, you are listening to the Beer30 Show. We're on segment number 2. And we have David from Honor Brewing Company on the line today. David, we know right now is a challenging time. You was telling us the situation where you're at right now, so we really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule and
no worries,
being able to come on the show and talk to us a little bit about what you guys have going on. So before we get started, I was wondering, could you tell us a little bit about Honor Brewing Company?
Sure, absolutely. Putting it pretty simply, our number one goal is to produce quality craft beers that honor the men and women and the families that serve our country, while giving back to charities of the fallen and the injured.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
And for me, like I was talking to you during our break, being part previous Navy, this just works out great having you on the show because, us Navy guys love beer.
Well, and I'm actually sitting here right now. Actually, I excused myself, but I'm sitting here with the parents of Sergeant Gene Lammy, that was part of U.S. Army and was killed in Afghanistan, and we've actually just launched a tap in his honor that we call our tribute tap, that we slide in a custom set of dog tags, and we're here down at Hop City Craft Beer and Wine down in Atlanta, Georgia. We just launched a tap in honor of their son. So we did a big event tonight, and we're raising a few glasses to Gene and having a good old time.
That's awesome. And you know what? I might have to raise a glass later as well for him,
Yeah.
Because if it's for people like him is why we live in a free country. So
exactly right.
That means a lot. So do you mind telling us how does Honor Brewing Company help our veterans? Like specifically,
sure.
Granted, I love beer, and I know beer is great. It helps me. But
absolutely. So basically, just about almost 2 years ago, we launched our beers first in kegs, and then we launched a tap handle that we actually just received a patent on this past October. That's called the Tribute Tap. And so people come to our website at honorbrewing.com, and they register their loved one, their colleague, and there's an area called Tribute. And we want people to tell us the stories about the men and the women that have served our country. We believe that these stories need to be told, and the number one thing is that they're never forgotten. So on this tap handle, we slide a custom set of dog tags into the tap handle, and as we launch in different states across the country, we honor those men and those women in particular bars, of course, across the area. And then in addition to that, on our six-pack carriers, every six-pack carrier now carries a story about someone that has served our country as well. With that, 15% of our profits go back to charities of the fallen and the injured. And above that, we'll go out and do private events and charitable events. So, for example, this weekend down in Washington, D.C., at a wonderful venue called Rebellion, we did a big charitable event and raised about $5,000 for 2 charitable organizations that we work with, and we gave all the money to those guys and had a great time. Actually, believe it or not, we actually even had a tattoo guy come in, a veteran-owned tattoo guy, fly in and do honor tattoos, if you can believe it, on about 12 people.
Awesome. It has nothing really to do with veterans, but it's funny, David, here in Denver, we just won the Super Bowl, and everybody that went and got everybody here in Denver that went, they got a free tattoo as long as they got it before we won the Super Bowl. So all those clowns that, have you seen those pictures with the guy with the Arizona Cardinals?
And so it's sort of the same thing. We have some fun. The thing is that for us, everybody tells us, like when we tell the stories about Sergeant Jean Lammy, or I have a Gold Star mother that's on my staff now that lost her son, Lance Corporal Levy, December 10th of 2011 in Afghanistan. We tell these stories, but these are real people. These are people that served our country to protect our freedom. And some people sometimes, they get bummed out, but I'm going, guys, you're failing to understand. This is about honor. This is about raising one in their name and never forgetting. And then on top of it is, how do we give back in the same token? That these families, we know that we can't bring their sons and their daughters and their dads and their grandpas back, but we can honor them, and we can say thank you.
Right. No, I mean, I was just saying that when you had mentioned the tattoo, that stuff was going on. So
absolutely,
I think that's totally awesome.
Thank you.
One thing that I was going to ask you is, other than the tattoo, how can one honor someone with Honor Brewing, and now will Honor Brewing do it?
Sure. Well, there's certainly the biggest way that we tell everybody is if you go online to our website and you go to the tribute area, you can write a tribute not only to the fallen but to a veteran. So, for example, we just launched something in the Washington, D.C. area for a veteran. He's now 90 years old, served in the Marine Corps for 32 years, and you know what? He needs to be honored. He deserves to be honored. And so when we go, we do that. You know, it's something that we go back out into the public, because it's one thing that the family or a friend has registered them, that's fine. But it's now, how do we continue to go out and tell their story, whether it's through, you know, avenues such as this, or whether it's through social media, or whether it's through different marketing means, but those stories need to be told. And I think that's the one big challenge that I personally have when we decided that we were going to do this, is right now, unfortunately today, I hate to say it, but out of sight, out of mind. A lot of things aren't told anymore. You know, it's not told that there's 22 suicides today from PTSD. You know, it's not told that there's over 6,000 that have been killed in Iraq and Afghanistan. And yet, you know, and it's the one thing it's not a pretty thing to talk about. We all know that, but it's one of those things that needs to be talked about. You know, I mean, tonight sitting here with Sergeant Lammy's parents, you know, he left behind a wife and 2 children.
Wow.
Those kids are never going to know who their father was. I lost my father when I was 6 years old after 2 tours in Vietnam. I don't know the man that's surrounded by medals inside of my office.
Right. No, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. And you know, it's the ugly truth. It's a harsh truth, but unfortunately, in today's society, it seems like unless something happens, like the Boston bombing or the attacks on Paris, I mean, that didn't affect us. But unless something big like that happens, it seems like people forget that we're still at war.
We're still at war.
Yeah, and
they claim that there's, you know, they've said, and that's fine, and they've said that we've pulled down troops, and we certainly have. They estimate that there's 14,000 troops there today. However, they don't realize, the public doesn't realize that all those troops that have been pulled down are backfilled with contractors. Right. So there's still plenty of men and women that are on the ground in Iraq and Afghanistan right now, and in Syria. And this is the thing that we look at, is the beer is a means of, it's the conduit that allows us to drive awareness. It allows us to all smile and still have a good time. I mean, there were plenty of tears tonight here when we were honoring Gene, but there were so many laughs, and we had a good time. You know, and his parents were like, this is what Gene was all about. This is why he wanted to serve in the United States Army. And that's what it's all about.
And, you know, the one thing I like about this is that, raising a glass to a fallen warrior has been around for thousands and thousands of years. And it's one of those things that just signify what we do in the military. And it's like every time I've lost a friend that's military, Joel, I'm sure, same as Joel, and when he's lost a friend, we always drink a beer in their name. Yeah. Always. And we always keep one off to the side. That's how it's always gone. We put one on the bar, and we drink one for ourselves. And
exactly right.
That one, we don't touch that one. At the very end, when we're all done, we pour that one out.
Yep.
And that's how it's always been for as long as I can remember. And
and that's the thing that we need, I think, and that's our biggest thing. Is my business partner was 26 years active duty in the Army, retired as a lieutenant colonel, and my family served over 100 plus years of service to our country. But then on the flip side of it, it's like these men and these women have all given their time and been able to help protect our freedoms and continue to sign up today and raise their hand. And that's the other thing that I always tell people. I said, the men and the women today they're raising their hand. They're volunteering.
Right.
We
exactly.
just need three people just that I know personally just went to boot camp. They signed up and they're going to probably make $18,000 a year to start off.
Hey, David, you was talking about how your family was in the military.
Yes,
you might have said, but I didn't catch it if you did. But was you ever in the military?
No. It was actually my grandfather. My grandfather served 32 years in the Air Force as a pilot, retired as a colonel, and my grandpa was actually the one that said, go do something else with your life. And it's quite ironic because that usually doesn't happen. Usually we all sort of follow in the footsteps of our fathers and our grandfathers. And, I don't know why. I guess you could say I sort of listened to his words of wisdom, I suppose. As he joked around, it was he wanted to fly jets and he wanted to get the hell out of Kansas. That was his exact word. So he joined the Air Force. But for me, it was, now I think, fast forward. Listen, we all enjoy craft beer, wine, cocktails, the whole 9 yards. But I looked at it and said, well, now fast forward, I just turned 46 years old, and I have two kids that ask me about my family all the time, in particular my father, and I can't necessarily tell the stories because I don't know the stories.
Yeah,
but what I can do is I can honor those that have come before me, and we can go ahead and we can give back. And, it's like Mr. and Mrs. Lammy that are here with me tonight. They're going, you don't understand how important this is to us.
Right.
They were like, our son's not here, but they were like, now there's a card sitting on this bar that has a picture and a story about our son. And there's a tap handle sitting back there about our son.
Mm.
And they were like, we're going to go and drive back home tonight. And they drove up here 5 hours to Atlanta from where they live in Georgia. They said, we'll drive back home tonight. And they were like, we'll know that our son has a place up there.
That's awesome. So you mentioned...
how can I...
yeah. So, you had mentioned Kansas. Is that where you guys based out of, or where are you guys based out of?
No, we're based out of Northern Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C.
Okay.
So that's where home is, and right now, believe it or not, we brew actually out in Denver. We actually are building our brewery right now in Northern Virginia, but for the time being, we found a wonderful brewery down in Denver that allows us to come in and do our thing and bottle and can and keg. And so we're excited about being able to do all that and as we expand our efforts. But our brewery is currently under construction now in Northern Virginia.
That's awesome.
Nice.
So what kind of beer do you guys brew? I'm like I said, Navy, I'm kind of curious right now. I'm like,
So the first big thing with our main goal that if we've learned anything from our distributors, from our retail partners, from customers, is please don't run out, because you're damned if you're successful. And so we've heard that. I can't tell you how many times, please don't run out of the beer. And so it really sat in the back of our head like crazy, going, okay, don't run out of beer, don't run out of beer. And so at every single time possible, we've just been looking at, well, how do we continue to keep up with capacity as we continue to grow our business? And so right now, two beers that we are brewing at the moment is our Honor Golden Ale. Light, easy, refreshing. As our brewmaster Joe Pericoco says, it's the crushable beer, it's the fun beer. And then we have our IPA. The major difference, I would say, with our IPA than what I would probably say traditionally with what's going on out there is our whole goal is to make something very easy drinking, sessionable, less bitter, less hoppy, 65 IBUs, and it's just a really nice, refreshing beer. And it's interesting because we wanted to look at the market in a more of a broader sense, is that we wanted to appeal to obviously a bigger market, and considering who we're talking with and who we're working with. Listen, everybody, I'm talking to two guys right now. Everybody knows somebody that has served our country.
Right, exactly.
Hey, I got a great way for you not to run out of beer. Just don't show up to any Navy events. I mean,
right? I hear you. Don't go to the Marine ones either. Holy smokes.
Oh yeah, we can throw back.
We did one back in the summer at Quantico. Oh my Lord. Yeah, the beer was gone in like two half barrels were gone like an hour and a half.
Yeah, we have a good time with it.
We have a little bit of fun. Absolutely, no question.
Well,
Joel.
I was gonna say, so David, we're running out of time. We want to really tell you we really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule, being on,
no
explaining
problem.
stuff to us. Before we let you go, we want to help you out as much as we could. So if you could tell us your give us your web address and give the listeners some other information that they might be able to help or might be able to donate or volunteer.
Definitely. Well, the biggest thing that I can tell you is if you go to Honor Brewing, so honorbrewing.com.
Okay.
And you can go there and you can learn all about us, the partners that we work with, the charities. I encourage everybody, all the charities that we work with are all entirely different. One, which is actually out in the Denver, Boulder area, called Angels of America's Falling, is a perfect example. All they do is help kids that have lost a family member in action, a mom and a dad. And a lot of people don't realize since Iraq and Afghanistan have started, over 13,000 children have lost a parent.
Wow.
And so when you think about that, these folks, anybody who's listening to your show can go directly to those guys. We want the charities to be taken care of. For us, sure, go to our website. There's an area on there you can call Find a Beer. We're now in 9 areas across the country, predominantly out here on the East Coast, but we're starting to make our way. Just launched up in Michigan and Wisconsin as well, but predominantly out here on the East Coast. Come, take a look at us, have some beers. Please email us. I promise you we'll answer back. If we're in your area, I promise you I'll buy you a beer.
All right, awesome. You know what? We're gonna take you up on that. Me and
definitely gonna take you up on that.
Yeah, me and Danny. No, seriously, me and Danny.
He's a thirsty Navy guy.
Well, I was gonna say me and Danny have this plan that when everything gets done and I graduate from this college course that I'm taking, that we're planning on going on a road trip and doing our show remotely different places. So when we get into Virginia, when we get into that area, we will definitely call you.
Son, it's just a matter of where we got to figure out where the place, because we're talking in this area, we're talking Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. We got them all contacted right around here. Not to leave out my Coast Guard guys, but we got predominantly Army, Navy, Air Force here.
Oh, that's all right. Coast Guard's been pretending to be the Navy since 1970.
Hey, they just don't have any camis. Like, we have stickers that have all the military's camis on them, and everybody keeps on busting our chops about where's the sticker for the Coast Guard. I'm like, there are no camis for the Coast Guard.
Yeah, that's about how it normally goes. But here's a good one for you, David. My wife's Navy. She's still active duty, but she doesn't at all. She doesn't drink at all.
Well, we're going to have to teach her that.
Yeah, well, I've tried. Trust me. The most I've seen her drink 3 times total. 3 times, and one was on our honeymoon. One was just red.
I love it.
And the last time I didn't really technically see, but she drank at her brother's wedding, who is also Navy.
Oh,
so.
See?
But now, if her brother comes to visit and you're here, well, we'll see how many beers we can throw back.
Right on.
So. Anyway, David, thank you very much.
Could you really
shout out of your website one last time? And it was great talking to you.
Yes, sir. Just go to Honor Brewing. We have some fun.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you once again, David. We need to cut to commercial. So
take care,
thank you once again for being on, and thank you for everything you do for the veterans.
Yeah,
hey, have a good
David.
one. Thanks so much. Take care, guys.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. That was David from Honor Brewing Company. Like Danny said, we're going to go on commercial, and when we come back,
rocking the troops.
Bruce Springsteen, Elton John, the Beatles, people that paved the way for us.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I'm David Bowie.
Hi, this is Jimmy Page.
hello, this is Rod Stewart.
This is MBR.